see him and it says joining ... but he's not doing anything. So I would shut down his Zoom and try it again. All right, so I am recording because I know that some people will not be here today. So we're picking up with our conversation about functions. If you would, please open up Schoology and go to our slides so that you can more easily reference things when we go into breakout rooms. So take a moment to do that if you still need to. Get out the regular, of course. And then, man, we said something. I have to go a couple pages back in my notes to actually see what it was that we said. We said something that we said was like critically important to our discussion about functions. Who can remember what that was? I had to flip back at least a page in my notes. Rachel, what was that rule? Yeah, so let's go ahead and write that down again. And I know some of you will decide to be 7th graders and not do this because you're like, I already have it once. But guys, this is a really important rule. So we want to write for functions and we have to be very particular with how we write this. Every input has one, and we could put like one and only one, or one and just one, or we could put one like in all capital letters and underline it, has one output. And we could date our notes if we want 1-7. And guys, I could just re-show you what we wrote 2 days ago, where we said every input has an output. But I want us to write it again, right? Because it's important. So then we talked about a test that we can do when we have a graph, right? What can we do when we have a graph? Akshay? Yeah, the vertical line test allows us to check, is a graph a function? So it can only hit once, is what the vertical line test means. It can only hit once. If it hits twice, it is not a function. So to look at a couple examples of that, well, this wasn't on a graph. We just had to look at these manually, right? So we looked at this last time we met 2 days ago. This was 2 slides from the very end, so we probably didn't write it down, but we probably did talk about the fact that it, can you remember if this is or is not a function and tell me why? Can you remember if this is or is not a function and can tell me why?
Isn't this one a function because every single input only has one output, whereas on the other chart, some of them have different outputs?
Yeah, so anytime we see 35, it maps up to 120. Anytime we see 30, it maps up to 100. So this is, Dewan, nice to have you here, by the way. You're lucky that you made it here before I sent attendance. This is an example of something that is a function. This,
what did you say? I'm sorry, I'm having...
You're good. I said glad to have you here. You made it here before I sent attendance, because I'm sending that now.
Okay.
We're still missing an Ivan and a Nick, right? No Ivan, no Nick here. So this was an example of a non-function, because if you look at 20, it maps to 40, but it also maps to 42. So this is like, we should probably write this down. Let's give an example of a non-function. So we're going to come back to the graph I drew there. A non-function example has 20 going to 2 different outputs. Now I'm going to draw this differently than the table above. 20 in that table goes to 40 minutes, and it also goes to 42 minutes. So when your x gets split up going over to its y's, this is not a function. What we're looking for is every x to map across only to one y. And since this is 1 and this is 2, 2 is more than 1, and that is not allowed. Sorry, I'm trying to multitask and it's not working well, so I have to do one thing at a time for a moment. Actually, what I should have done is say, but we stopped here. We stopped here. Zoe, do you have a question, or were you going to comment on that?
No, I have a question.
What's
if
up?
you had two guys that, like, you're 40 and 42, but they both, like, went to 20. I don't know if that makes sense.
So if...
And you had two, like, X's that went to one number.
So we're about to look at that. Yeah, thank you for that question. I appreciate the segue. We're going to come back to this after we talk about the vertical line test. And why we're talking about the vertical line test is a lot of people then want to ask the question about, well, is there like a horizontal line test? Right? Like, if there's a vertical line test, what happens with a horizontal line? So a vertical line test is literally these orange dotted lines here. If I can draw a vertical line through my function and hit it only once. Now, vertical doesn't mean give it some funky angle. Vertical means vertical. All right, Logan, good to have you here, man.
So, I was having trouble logging in.
You're good. You can always text me, but then again, I haven't looked at my texts for a minute. So, you're good. Let's just get you caught up. Now, I'm recording anyway, so you can go watch the beginning of class that you missed. So, we will see functions that end up being circles. And because it hits a vertical line twice, that's not a function. Sorry, I just said function. We'll see relationships. We'll see equations, but those situations are not functions. This is a type of parabola, but it's actually turned sideways, and when you get deeper into math, you'll see why this is made. So, if we want to write down a couple more examples of non-functions, you can choose whether you do that sideways parabola or whether you draw the circle, but please make an indication on your, now the y-axis is its own vertical line test essentially, but if I draw a vertical line right here, we fail the VLT. We fail the vertical line test because we hit it twice. Now what's interesting though is the picture that you can still see. On the left there, that says that it is a function. So every input can only have one output, but outputs can have multiple inputs. So if we drew, I had a small ruler, there we go. If we drew, please draw a picture of that little wavy line over there. That's actually a sine curve, by the way, for those of you, I think it's, no, it's not sine or cosine actually. It's close to it. It's a shifted sine or cosine curve. If we have a curve, that's like one of the best curved lines I've ever drawn. We still pass the vertical line test, right? Anywhere that I put a vertical line, it only touches once. The fact that we have multiple x values that give us the same y value doesn't matter. It's still a function. So the single output of y equals 1 has many inputs here. And this is a function. And there's a lot of situations that we can talk about like this. Like think about the location of like the hour hand on a clock versus the minute hand on a clock. Like the minute hand ends up in the same location every single hour, but the hour hand only ends up in the same location every 12 hours. So I'm getting a little deep now with what this graph could look like. But like if the hand was going down on the clock and then the hand was going back up on the clock and then the hand was going back down on the clock and then the hand was going back up on the clock. All right, so I just wanted it typed out to make sure that we covered this and make sure that I didn't forget to say it. Every input has one output. However, an output may have more than one input. So this function right here, is that a function? Sorry, I shouldn't say this function. This relationship, is this a function? A over here? Ask yourself, does it pass the vertical line test? Yeah. There is no such thing as the horizontal line test. So if that phrase is even in your head, get it out of there, right? Horizontal doesn't mean anything. This could be like the height of a plant. So I watered the plant and it grew, and then I forgot to water it and it wilted. And I don't know, that's a bad example. And then I watered it again and it grew again. And like maybe my x-axis is time and my y-axis is height of the plant. And this is a bad example for that graph. But guys, horizontal doesn't matter. Vertical line test is the only thing we care about. Here are some more fun examples of that. A horizontal line is a function. Vertical line, absolutely not. This is probably a parabola. It just kind of looks a little bit too steep at the bottom. That is a function. Turn it sideways, it's not. This is actually the graph of y equals x cubed. Maybe it's the cube root of x. I forget which one this is. But it is a function. Turn the absolute value graph sideways, not a function. Circle, not a function. Any questions about the vertical line test? So now we get back to these complicated input-output situations that aren't numbers and aren't graphs. So what I want us to very particularly write down in our notes before I send you into breakout rooms is if y is a function of x. Sorry, this is really stiff. I should WD-40 this. If we say y is a function of x, that's because y equals, right? Y is something compared to x. Y is double x, y is half of x, whatever. What they were asking us in that question that we stopped on last week, can the side dish be a function of the main course? What we have to start to recognize is what is the input and what is the output. Here, the output's going to be the side dish and the input's going to be the main course. But we're not back to that question yet. We'll come back to that question because that was the toughest one. What we want to look at here is, can the country each person comes from be represented as a function of that person's name? So what we want to write down and ask and talk about with our group is it country is a function of name or name is a function of country? Can the country each person comes from? Read this real carefully. Country as a function of name. So what we're looking at is country is a function of name. Please write that down, meaning that country is our output, name is our input. I want you to go to your breakout rooms and see what you think. Can country be a function of name? If you get done with this one and you have Schoology open, go ahead and move on to the next one. But you are gonna need to have Schoology open so you can carefully inspect this table. But what they're asking us, they're asking the question, can country be a function of name? I'm gonna wait. No, I'll go ahead and assign you guys. Yeah, Rachel just got back in, so we should be good now. What? Recreate. All right, there we go. Throw it in the chat. Do you think this is a function, yes or no? Do you think this is a function, yes or no? All right, everyone should be getting back in here now. Is this a function, yes or no? Please put it in the chat. Is this a function, yes or no? Please put it in the chat. Every input maps to one output. So guys, here's the issue while you're putting your answers in chat. When we say the question, is country a function of the name? Then when we write it, we normally put input related to output, so we flip the order around. Right? We're not saying country compared to name. We're saying name goes into country. So guys, what we say with this is that the input, sorry, I know you can't see, the input maps to. This is literally the phrase that we use in math. So the input maps to the output. So we say the in maps to the out, because we often try to shorten words when we can. This is a trap door, and we got people on both sides of our answers. Adam, would you like to volunteer to explain to us why this is not a function? Or I had one other.
This one is not a function because it's a little hard to notice because it only happens once. Jose is repeated twice. And on the bottom, it's for the country is Brazil, and here it's Mexico. Wait, I just realized you can't see my mouse because I'm not screen sharing.
You're good. You're good. So Adam's absolutely right, guys. It's really hard to see because unless you look at the entire table, you miss it that Jose is both from Mexico and from Brazil. Maybe he grew up in both places, like his family is from both places. So we cannot make this a function because an input gets split. So when an input gets split to two different outputs, right, 1 and 2, this is bad. So input gets split means this is not a function. Now, when we think about this, Kelly, what's up?
I wanted to ask, if we thought of the two Jose's as two different people,
That's the problem. Right now, the inputs are identical. So you would need like Jose, like Cervantes and Jose, Diego. Like you'd need last names. And then we wouldn't use Jose, we would use their last names. So right now, by having Jose and Jose, it's the same person. It's the same input. So you're right, they might be two different people, but what we see mathematically, the evidence in front of us, Jose is from two places. So if we look at another one of these, I switched back to numbers for a second to make your life easy. Let's give you a minute in your rooms. Yes or no, is this a function? Hopefully you have Schoology open, otherwise you're going to have to decide before you go.
Mr.
Yes.
Our group did 3 more.
Oh, you kept going? That's totally fine. You can go all the way if you want to. I mean, this is really the next. Oh, he's gone. Remember what we said last time, or maybe we haven't said this in this class about just waiting out the 60 seconds, and that Zoom will bring you back?
I just realized I looked at it wrong.
All right, put it in the chat. What do you think? Yes or no? Put it in the chat. It's like I'm playing a video game, because I don't think you guys can hear this, but on my end, it goes like pew, 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 pew. Because when you get a chat, it sounds like a little laser. Yes, and it was a lot better writing it down on paper this time. So, Charlotte, do you want to explain that? Why it's a function, or why you said it's better?
Well, I know last time I didn't write it down on paper, I just looked at it and I'm like, oh, that seems right. But this time I actually wrote it down on paper and was able to see all the methods.
Ah, so here's the other thing that I thought you were maybe going to say, is when we're writing it down on paper, we don't have to be redundant if we realize that we're being redundant. So let's say cans and bytes, right? So 0 maps to 11, and we don't have any other zeros on the table. 1 maps to 8. Do we have any other 1s on the table? No. 2 maps to 9. We have another 2, but is it different? No. So if it's the same, we don't have to write it again. 3 maps to 6, and that's the only one that we have. 4 maps to 5. Now my question for you guys that's going to lead to where we're heading after this, is this a linear function? Is this a linear function? Now wait a minute. This went down, and then it went up, and then it went down again. So guys, if we were to graph this, our line would look something like whoop, 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 whoop. Like it might go up and down, but could this still be a function? I can put this over. Can something that goes up and down, but diagonally the whole time, can that be a function? Yeah. So it doesn't matter that this goes down and then it goes up and then it goes down. It doesn't matter. As long as we can pass the vertical line test, we can be a function. Let's try another one. Ooh. Bit more complicated. The table compares the capacity of Omojobi's phone battery when he started charging it in percentage points and the time it took the battery to charge. Go to your rooms and see what you think. Kelly, do you remember what room you were in? Probably room 1. Awesome. It's like every time we go to breakout rooms, somebody gets kicked out of the meeting. I don't know why. All right, throw it in the chat. What do you think? What do you think? What do you think? Is this a function? Put it in the chat. Is this a function? What do we think? Ooh, okay. And if you think it's not a function, what input breaks it? What input gets broken, right? Gets split up? What input's trying to be used twice? If it's not a function, now if it is a function, just tell me yes. But if it's not a function, what input breaks it? If you want a little picture to go with the last couple problems that we've talked about, check it. We are comparing functions and non-functions of things that aren't necessarily numeric, right? Like numbers.
The visualizer thing is covering part of the.
Oh, that, yeah. Sorry, my bad. So if you want a little graphing visual, Jose mapped to 2 different countries, and that's what made it not a function. But our bug bites, even though we went down and then went up and then went down, that's still a function. Even though we went down and then up, it's still a function. A lot of people in here are saying 65. What's wrong with 65? Who wants to? Dewan, you got your hand up. What's wrong with 65? Or do you have a question, Dewan?
I had it up from earlier, sorry.
Oh, my bad. So, Colin, you also had your hand up on the last one, and I didn't get around to calling you. What's wrong with 65?
So it's duplicated twice on the left side. As you can see, there's 65 at the top, it's 20, and then the fourth one down, it's 18.
Oh, 2 different so we could use 65 twice, but it would need to be the same value again, right? And it's not. So,
There's also 30.
Yeah, that's the one I noticed is 30.
yeah, I was about to throw it to Dewan and say, did you see the 65 or did you see the 30? Because, yeah, I saw the 30 when I was solving it. Let's do another one of these. Boots and ice cream. Okay. It doesn't matter if it doesn't make sense. Go determine, is it a function? Shoe type to ice cream flavor. Charlotte, do you remember what room you were in? 3?
Yeah.
There we go.
Then
You guys keep coming back so fast. You're allowed to stay in there and keep talking. So I've added to our little function graph. Shoes would be the input. Flavor would be the output. I want everyone, well, in 30 seconds, I'm going to have everyone shut their eyes. We're gonna imagine together. Imagination. Do you consider ribbon dancing a sport?
I mean, it would fall under the bigger, It just, the really big thing is to consider dancing a sport, because then, if so, then river dance.
Yeah. All right, now that everyone is back in here and I can stop trying to waste time, everyone shut your eyes with me. Don't worry, no one's going to sneak up on you and scare you unless you have a sibling at home. So you are walking down the high street in Worthington, right? You look over to the parking lot, you're like, ooh, Graders. I could go for some Graders. You walk into Graders to get some ice cream, and they go, you're wearing boots. You obviously want strawberry ice cream. Okay, now open your eyes. Does that make sense?
no.
No. So first off, the situation's a little crazy, But when we look at our table, well, actually, Boots is only on here twice, so Boots doesn't break it. If this is not a function, put it in chat. What shoe type breaks it? What shoe type breaks this? Ah, yes. Those darn sandal wearers. You can't anticipate what the sandal wearers want, because sometimes sandal wearers want chocolate, and sometimes sandal wearers want banana, and it's just too hard to predict. So guys, there are certain things that don't make sense to try to describe as a function. If you were working at Graders and you said, look, I've got a great idea. We can know what ice cream people want based off this data that I've collected. Look, everyone wearing loafers wants vanilla ice cream. I've got 2 different loafer wearers that, like, guys, it doesn't make sense. And it's broken. Like, even if this made sense, it'd be silly, but it's broken, because sandals breaks it. And there's no mint chip. You are right, Kelly. Where is the mint chip being represented here? So we're back to this. The problem we got stuck on last week, and I'm going to put you in your breakout rooms one more time to decide, is this a function? Can the main course and the side dish be related by a function? Dewan, sorry, I just saw that you were still in here. Do you need something, man?
Imagine cheese.
Imagine cheese? I'm with you.
Just imagine it. That's all I'm telling you to do.
Original conversation. So is dancing a sport? I still have to know that.
I think so.
If you're doing it competitively, like...
Well, even if not, you can not competitively, like...
Do you think marching band is a sport?
Competitive golf, then that's still a sport.
Yeah, if you, like, I think marching band is a sport.
I mean, breakdancing is in the Olympics now.
In high school, you can take that instead of...
Well, okay, I gotta back up and say, I have to say your argument about golf not being competitive, if you're like, you're always competing against yourself.
No, but I was saying you don't have to play golf competitively.
But you're always competing against yourself. Like, you're always trying to do well. Alright, put it in the chat. Is this a function? What do you think? Veggie Burger breaks it. But I only see Veggie Burger on here once. So I had somebody say Veggie Burger breaks it, but I only see one Veggie Burger. So I will specify Veggie Burger is a different input. Right? This is not like Jose and the fact that we have burger and burger. This is a different meal. Trust me, when my wife was a vegetarian, a burger is not a veggie burger. Right? There is a huge difference. So burger maps to potato chips. Burger maps to potato chips. Veggie burger does not, but that's fine. It's a different input. So guys, here's what you got to think about. If I put the main dishes out on my x-axis, would any of them have 2 different y values? Would any of them fail the vertical line test? So if I put like burger, it would only go up to what output? What's the only output that we saw there for burger? Potato chips, right? Everyone who got a burger got potato chips. If I wrote down fish, what output would fish have?
Rice.
Rice. Now really, I think they need French fries, because fish and chips, come on.
Yes.
But If we do this, every input would only go to one output. So last week, 2 days ago, feels like last week, we couldn't figure this out based off input and output. As long as you know that the main course is the input and the side dish is the output, guys, we can't just do fun facts in the chat as great as I, like, maybe at some point we will. Sophia, do you have something to contribute here?
If you go back to it, I was actually reading the problem, and it says, can side dish be represented as a function's main course?
Right. So this, I appreciate you bringing that up. If we write it out, side dish is a function of main course. This is why we wrote out at the beginning of our notes, y is a function of x. So whenever they say of, the thing coming after of is our input. So since it says function of the main course is our input. So we're saying input then leads to output. Me choosing my main dish leads to me choosing my side dish. Oh, thanks. Yeah, I don't always have the attendance list open. Why didn't Kelly text me? I got my phone right here. All right. So one last look at the vertical line test. Which of these is a function? Just shout it out. We don't even need to use chat.
The first one.
The first one. Why isn't part B a function? You don't like this one? I think it's beautiful. It's like it looks like a really fancy N, like cursive N, but then copied, actually kind of a cursive Z too. This is also not a function. Right? Part C is also not a function. Now, back to linear functions. Go ahead and put this table on your notes, please. And actually, if you want to start a new paper, new page, whatever you want to call it, this would be a great time to start a new page. What we're really going to say here is identifying linear or not. So these are going to be situations where they tell us what we have is a function. And we have to identify, is it a linear function or is it a not linear function? So please, in your notes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 3, 5, 7, 9. Now this one is nice. I clicked admit. I promise I'm not trying to keep Kelly out of the meeting. We'll see if it works this time. Kelly, I promise I'm not trying to keep you out of the meeting. I don't know why it wouldn't let you in. To identify if a function is a linear or not, we are going to compare the rate and see if the rate is consistent. So what we have to check is the rate consistent? And the rate, we know, is change in y over change in x. Right? So rate is the same thing as slope. What's our change in y here?
2 plus 2.
Yeah. What's our change in x? And we do that for the entire table. We check, does it match? 2 and 1, yep. 2 and 1, yep. So, since all of them equal 2 over 1, this is linear. Now, here's where people are going to say, but wait! This is times 3. This is not. Guess what? We don't care. Hey, Cooper. Hey, Cooper. What are you doing?
I got excited because I figured I did it.
Cooper's like having his own dance party. So what do you mean you did it? Like you got this right, it is linear?
Yeah, it's not it. It's not, whatever, linear.
But Cooper, I just said it is linear. Or did you move on?
No, I didn't move on. You said it, alright.
Yeah, you need to listen, bro. So everyone take a step back. The rates, when we looked at the rates, all of the rates were a change in y of 2 over a change in x of 1. Change in y2, change in x1. Change in y2, change in x1. So we said what that means is this is linear. And then I said, here's the trap door, and I think you stopped listening. This is times 3, and this isn't. It doesn't matter. What that tells us is this is not... Ooh, anyone want to finish my sentence?
Proportion.
Yeah, it's not proportional. But it is linear. So you can be non-proportional, but still be linear. I want you all to actually, let's do this. I need my keyboard. All right, you're going to go into breakout rooms. You're going to have 3 tables to look at. And I want you to determine if they are linear. 3, 5, 7. No, you're going to have 2 tables to look at. This is timing up well because we're almost out of time. Okay, go in your breakout rooms. This almost last slide. I should just make it the last slide. Go in the breakout rooms. Are these linear? Hint, hint, my bet is one of them might be and one of them won't be because that's good practice. Three more seconds till everyone's back here. All right, give me the answers respectively for the first one and the second one. Throw them in chat really fast. I promise I'm going to get you guys out of here. I know I'm going longer than normal. Actually, forget about chat. Never mind. Because we're going longer than normal, I just want to wrap this up. This is not linear because these are different, right? +3, +9, +6. This is...
No, because the other side
Oh, I have to look at both sides. So I can't just look at the right side. I have to look at the left side as well and look at my delta x. So this is a +1, but this is and this is a +2. And if I write out those rates, the rate from here is 3/1. The rate from here is 9/3. Oh, look, that reduces to 3/1. The rate from here is 6/2. Hey, look, that reduces to 3/1. So this is linear. Even though these changes in y are not consistent, when we compare the rates, and guys, if you didn't write compare rates, or like rate is consistent, like please write down something about rates. I'm going to write it really big right here. I hate when my pen gets stuck on my paper. So I have +1, +3, +2, but now I know that doesn't really matter. I got to look at the left side also. So what is this? Is +3. This is +3, +2. So this gives us, Kelly, why do you keep getting kicked out? This gives us a rate of 1/3. This gives us a rate of 3/3. And this gives us a rate of 2/3. Nope. Not consistent rates. So actually, if you want to just make a column, like label the column with rates on the outside of your table, that'll work. All right, guys, I'm over time, and I am sorry. I apologize for going longer, but I wanted to make sure that you saw all of this before you dive into the weekend and you try to wrap up all your homework. So please try to get that stuff caught up. It is due on Tuesday. Thank you very much for coming to class. If you have any questions, stick around and talk with me. Otherwise, have a wonderful day. I got a window now. I got a window. Guys, I got a window. Look, I'll show you guys outside. It's outside. You're welcome. Look at this.
What's your opinion on having esports in the Olympics?
I think esports is sweet. I think esports belongs wherever people want to put it. However, I think the game play, like this would be a Kabilo conversation. I think there needs to be some very specific ground rules.